I want to preface this video by saying something. I'm not sure if I'm alone in this, maybe I'm just screaming into the void, but I'm honestly kind of tired of our modern media landscape, where I feel that so much of the art analysis we consume never seems to get into the deeper things the story is trying to say about our world, only the very basic plot facts. Somehow, videos like that get thousands of views. The fact that the times I have done the type of analysis I like to see, it's been met with little to negative reception, makes me kinda want to quit. So I'm just going to say that this might honestly be one of my last videos. But who knows? Ironically, what we be dissecting today may have a word to say about that. We are not prisoners of our past after all. We choose what we are, what we become, and how we will be remembered. We as a community can choose to take on this problem and fight for a better future. Sonic Adventure 2 is a story I never really knew how to make much sense of. It has so many moving parts, and honestly, it has always seemed too complicated to me to fully dissect, in the same way I did with my Ace Attorney video. So much so that when I made my Sonic Adventure 2 video last year in Spanish, and eventually in English, I completely omitted talking about the story because frankly, I just felt very intimidated by it. But I decided I don't want to let my past with storytelling define me. Sonic Adventure 2 was one of my favorite stories, even if I never fully knew why. Despite that, I chose to call it that, and the truth that I found, I loved even more. And as we'll see, there's a reason I'm saying all of this. Sonic Adventure 2 is just as much about Shadow's struggle about who he is, than about his struggle to not let himself be defined by it. His struggle for agency. Essentially, as the song quite correctly points out, it's about living and learning. This theme can be seen throughout the entire story, and it's constantly being built upon. Shadow is not simply bound by Maria's will, or at least what he thinks Maria wished for.
お願いよ、シャドウ。私の代わりに。マリア。いつか必ず。あの星に住むすべての人たちに。アディオス。シャドウ・ザ・ヘッジホッグ。分かっているさ、マリア。約束する。この星に住むすべての人間。復讐を。
The story sets up something important here. Shadow does not truly know what Maria's wish was. He's not certain about what it is, and the game never gives a definitive answer either. Instead, here, it's making him fill in the blanks of what he thinks Maria wished for. He's choosing here to abide by Maria's wish no matter what, or as I pointed out earlier, what he thinks Maria wished for. He's consumed by his hatred for humanity, for what it did to him, and possibly even is following whatever things Gerald inserted into his memories.
オリジナルのデータをもとについにシャドウを完成させた。記憶のコントロールも完璧だ。全てをシャドウに託す。後世に望むものあらばあれを目覚めさせよ。世界に
絶望を望むなら。
He doesn't have agency here. As some of you may know, as an official strategy guide for Sonic Adventure 2 pointed out, the original Shadow that was in the capsule when Maria died was never found. This is a key detail of the story that was intended but was never quite communicated well in the actual game. This also tells us something. We didn't know what was the personality of the original Shadow. As the game shows us from the memories of the Shadow in the game, he seems to be curious about the world, wanting to learn from it, good meaning, and with a kind soul.
シャドウはあの星が好きなんだね。
プロフェッサーは自分の研究をあそこにいる人間のためだって言ってる。 科学の力でみんなを幸せにする。それが自分の生きがいだって。
シャドウ。
マリア、僕には見つからない。僕が生まれた理由、僕は何のために生まれ、何をすればいいのか。いつかあの星に行けばそれが見つかるんだろうか。マリア。
In essence, we don't know if the actual Shadow would, after everything that happened to him, turn vengeful and resent humanity. The latter Shadow's only agency is choosing to fail in those plans by himself with the hatred that was implanted in him by Gerald. But that poses a question: is Shadow actually acting of his own will here? Or is he just following Gerald's every command? Does even an artificial life form have a choice over who they are? The story seems to side with the former question rather than the latter one. That even this artificial life form that was implanted even possibly fake memories still has a choice, still has agency over who he becomes. Shadow regaining his agency from Gerald can be very clearly seen throughout the entire story. In the start, Shadow is just leading Eggman into doing what Gerald wants. He has no agency here. But as the story progresses, we see glimpses into Shadow's humanity. We see him be reminded of Maria by Rouge's hopeless situation in Prison Island and rushing in to rescue her. We see him form a bond with the other characters. It's a reminder that humanity can be found even in the most artificial places. It's not biological, but rather something we practice with empathy, kindness, and understanding. The game also seems to have an obsession with duality. There's clearly a contrast between Shadow, the artificial life form, one that was nurtured into following Gerald's every command, and the Biolizard, the artificial force of nature that has no feelings, a body without a soul. But ultimately, the most interesting contrast has to be between Sonic and Shadow. They are very similar, but very different all the same. Sonic is a force of nature, but Shadow is an artificial life form. They should be diametrically opposed, but instead, they both have agency over their own choices and lives. The game sides with the idea that even as Sonic practices humanity because he is an artificial, Shadow can also practice humanity, as artificial as he may be. They're more similar than they let on. In fact, Shadow's memories of the Ark, as we know, are not empirical. We don't know if what we're shown actually looked like that. This poses the question of if the original Ultimate Lifeform from 50 years ago really looked like Shadow. Perhaps it looked more like a certain blue hedgehog that went on to have many adventures and was pretty curious about exploring the world. Maybe that Ultimate Lifeform from 50 years ago found its answer on Earth and is still alive.
どうしたのソニック。
いや、なんでもない。さあ帰ろう。俺と同じ青くて丸いあの星に。
アディオス。シャドウ・ザ・ヘッジホッグ。
Sonic saying this is no coincidence. How does he know what Maria said? I'll let you choose what that means. In many ways, Sonic Adventure 2 mirrors my own experience. It might be a surprise to some of you, but I've recently been put on medication to avoid thoughts caused by OCD, and many times those thoughts come from past things I've done. I often feel that the past haunts me, from questionable actions to even questionable videos. I feel that it defines who I am, except it doesn't. Sonic Adventure 2 is a story about not letting the past define us, much like a prototype hedgehog that doesn't let his past in the Ark define him, while learning from it to build a better future. I often find myself struggling to find a reason to continue, not just with YouTube, but with many things in life. It often feels that we as humanity cannot get our shit together. If I'm not worrying about purely policing one day, I'm worrying about how people have become so ignorant that they don't realize that saying that they're apolitical is nonsense. Or maybe I'm worried about what I said at the very beginning of this video, or some other ongoing things in the world. People struggling to survive, or genocides, or some other thing. Perhaps I have let those bad feelings define me for too long. That we as humanity are prisoners of ourselves and are destined to slowly and quietly die out. Sonic Adventure 2 in these often desperate and bleak times, argues for something different. It argues for the inherent good in humanity, that we shouldn't give up and that we are not defined by our past. Shadow is making a conscious choice throughout this story, when he says,
自分が本当のシャドウだって信じてるの？
当然だ。
あんたのその記憶こそ偽物かもしれないのよ。
たとえ僕の記憶がフェイクだとしても、僕にとってはそれが全てだ。彼女、マリアの願いを叶える。ただそれだけだ。
He's not bound by Maria's wish. He's making a choice to believe, in his incomplete memory of what Maria's last words are, that Maria wished for revenge on humanity. In the ending, Shadow's final words,
マリア、これでいいんだろう。
don't signal either that he's confident in what Maria wished. He's still unsure himself, suggesting that maybe even Shadow didn't actually remember Maria's true wish, but rather he filled in the blanks after hearing Amy.
お願いがあるのシャドウ。みんなを助けてあげて。
これは全て僕が望んでやったことだ。お前たちを助ける理由などない。助ける意味も。
意味ならあるよ。確かにあそこでは毎日争い事が絶えないし、あのおじいさんが言った通りわがままで自分勝手でバカな人間ばかりかもしれない。でもみんなあそこで生きてんだよ。一生懸命生きて頑張ってる。いつかみんなでもっと幸せになろうって頑張ってる。それだけでもあの星の未来を信じる意味があるわよ。だからお願い。あの星に住むすべての人たちにチャンスを与えてあげて。その可能性を奪わないで。シャドウ、私の代わりにいつかマリア、あの星に住むすべての人たちに幸せになるチャンスを与えてあげて。みんなの願いを叶えてあげて。シャドウならそれができる。きっとあなたはそのために生まれたの。アディオス。
Shadow didn't fight with the confidence that what he would do would save humanity from itself. He fought to save humanity so that there can be a better future someday, working together collectively with Sonic, Eggman, Tails, Knuckles, Rouge, and even Amy. Maybe like them, if we fight together for a better future, that can be attained. Very much like Shadow, both in fiction and outside fiction, humanity is not defined by our past. We are not defined by war, struggles, coups, corporations. We are defined by the present and by the future we are making. Shadow's struggle is not just a struggle about identity, but humanity's struggle, my struggle, and likely yours as well. It is often said that Shadow in Sonic Adventure 2 has no agency of his own, as he is bound by Maria's wish. I find myself disagreeing with that notion. Shadow, like us, has agency over his future. He chose to fight for a better future. Hopefully we can do so as well.